Welcome. My name is Ofubo Benebo. Scoping the farm produce of the selected essential crops as performed for the subsistence farming motivated the expansion of the essential crops and by de facto the essential foods with the addition of 3 more foods, 2 crops and fish. Though a necessary task for the purposes of ensuring healthful living, given that the scoping clearly enables the farmer to discover deficiencies in the healthful quality of selected essential crops. Production of fish as a task, however, raises interesting considerations. Fish production or fish farming breaks with the pattern of the farming activities prevailing as constituting the subsistence farming. The production or farming of fish occurs in an aquaculture, which is entirely a completely different farming setting. Aquaculture, the invariable approach to fish production, preferentially uses the seas in enclosed areas. For instance, in the norm, a coastal area would be cordoned off, creating an aquaculture and juvenile fish released into the water and let seed cultivation of a school of fish. Very often, the water in the aquaculture filters through from the seas into the aquaculture and flows out, thereby recirculates on a larger scope of events. Meshes may be placed in sections of where the sea flows in to let fresh water come in and flow out as well of the aquaculture. The net result is that the fishes remain in the enclosed area, the aquaculture, and then continue breathing, growing, and of course are periodically harvested. These aqua farming spaces are in some cases completely closed off from the seas, in which case specialized feed are provided to the fish. The implementation of such fish cultivation aquaculture are of 4 types: the fish pond, fish tank, fish gate, and fish pen, which are differentiated by the walls of the region. The first 2 have impermeable to water walls, and the walls are fixed. The second 2 have net walls, so permeable to water flows. The fish pond is a natural body of landlocked water in which fish live. The fish tank is a man-made mimicry of the pond, but with the walls being made either of concrete or fiberglass, and optionally seawater pumped into it. The fish gate is another man-made aquafarming space, but a circular net enclosed space that is left in shallow seas or rivers and floats up and down with the tides of the water body. Finally, the fish pen is like the fish gate, except that it has no base to help it float with the tides of the water. So it's pretty much fixed in wherever it is implemented. A variant of the fixed closed wall aquaculture is the raceway, in which fishes exist and the water is paddled to keep circulating. The paddling, of course, creates oxygenation of the water. Yet another variant is the recirculating aquaculture system, RAS, in which the wall of aquafarming, where the fishes are cultivated, are solid and fixed, and the biological process built around that particular aquaculture. Aquaculture of the size implementable for subsistence farming, however, would rightly be called subsistence aquaculture. The implementation of subsistence aquaculture as such addresses the downscaling of any of the already delineated types of aquaculture that best suits the object of the subsistence farming. As consideration in the same context is the implementation, the fish feed sourcing and supplies. Significantly, the scoping of the essential crops reveals the deficiencies of reactants which present in the body ensures that the metabolic reaction network utilizing amino acids is always well provided for with the required reactants. A significant interest about the fish feed being implemented for any target fish is the discovery of the edibles in habitat, if there are any, or lack thereof, that enable the fish to be a complete protein. In absence of such knowledge, then, there is therefore the need to design a fish feed for each species that ensures feeding the fish with the feed empowers the fish to become complete proteins. Of interest as such is whether a fish feed must necessarily also include amino acids on the assumption, as known in the science, that the introducing of one form of biologic into a non-source organism often results in a biocondensation of the biologic, effectively modifying the biologic into a native biologic. Then, whether should be used the amino acid of quinoa or soybean or even GSS amino acid process chemically synthesized carboxylic amino acid would be just as suitable for the purposes in the design of the fish feed. In synopsis, then, this episode entitled Subsistence Farming Aquaculture presents and elicits the factors of consideration about implementing subsistence aquaculture of small enough size to be implemented within residential land. The design of a full biological engineering process for recirculating aquaculture system, the RAS, consideration about the must-have in the fish feed, and the mindset about the process design that demand by default an automatic control system. The driver rationale guiding subsistence farming aquaculture has the object of evolving a subsistence scale aquaculture for farming fish, meaning the sustenance and breeding of fish, recognizing that the production of the fish is simply another approach for availing complete proteins for the subsistence farmer. The path forward then is the downscaling adaptation of the aquaculture to fit with the minimum land mass specified for subsistence farm while still being ambulatory. Given the size of land being used, the aquaculture has to be designed on the same rationale as for a bench scale process model as practiced in process engineering projects. Accordingly, in this case, the adopted aquaculture technology type is the RAS because it has an engineering process design format and it is compact and addresses all issues often associated with fish farming. After all, a well-designed RAS addresses even the issues of environmental concern regarding fish excrements. Equally of consideration is the sourcing of the fish feed and the decision of whether the feed will be produced in-house or purchased from a vendor. If the latter is opted for, then the task of provisioning feed for the subsistence aquaculture is less complicated as a vendor supplier can be recruited. However, in the case of the in-house production option, the consideration may get somewhat more complicated because while, after all, the feed can be formed from the farm produce on a rationale based on using a combination of farm produce and on determining the right proportion that works for a given species of fish, whether the fish must necessarily include carboxylic or whether the feed must necessarily include carboxylic or amino acids and mechanism for sourcing as quinoa or soy or synthetic must still be assessed. Default position of the driver rationale is to err on the side of caution and include carboxylic and amino acids in the feed, but with regard without regard to the source. Guided on the driver rationale, the starting point of the implementation of the subsistence aquaculture system is the detailed design of the layout of the upper farm space for the subsistence aquaculture. The partitioning of the space prefers two options: without amino acids source of quinoa or soy, and with amino acid source of quinoa or soy, with the dimensions for without amino acids being 4.5 feet and 2.5 feet parcels, and if source with amino acid or soy, then partitions into 3.5 feet, 1.5 feet, and 2.0 feet parcels. The 4.5 feet or 3.5 feet parcel holds the recirculating aquafarming system and consists of a large channel tank, environmental conditioner tank, and sanitizer tank. At the width side of the channel tank are the sanitizer and environmental conditioner tanks. The latter is connected to the pond at the entry inlet, and the former is connected by pipe to the exit outlet. The large basin or rectangular tank is the pond or pseudo-habitat below. Below then is a configuration equipment which forces the particulates of the fish excrement to clump together, become larger, and sediment, while the water must also flow out at the exit outlet and flow into the sanitation conditioner tank, where the pathogens are sanitized. Sanitation conditioner removes the final particles of the excrement of the fish before the effluent flows back into the environmental conditioner affixed on the top cap. Affixed on the top cap of the environmental conditioner and up and open into the interior is a degasser that removes from the process stream the carbon dioxide exhaled by the fish. The environment conditioner tank creates the extent of the habitat condition of the sea in which the fish lives. The tank is actually an integration of several equipment. A feed supplier is affixed to the top cap and opens into the interior. A wide-angle UV light irradiator also mounted on the top cap, but emission section is in the tank and affixed with air bubbler, so the air is oxygenated. So water and context are created as the environment and then flow into the channel entry inlet into the pond. Over above is a cover-like roof of the same dimension as the channel in width and length, but with angular flare flaps, making it an inverted trough. Inside this cover trough is affixed the light dispersers network for the aquaculture pond. The light dispersers network mostly use the accentuators to provide high-intensity light in an improvised controlled light variant space. While this design is an RAS in the sense of the circulatory process stream, the use of the trough provides much flexibility in operation. The RAS even as pseudofish get RAS. Such operation is accomplished by putting a gate in the channel through channel trough such that the gate is immersed in the trough and the fish feed is supplied in the surrounding water. Although there may not seem to be any obvious disadvantage for doing so, the advantage comes through when an aquaculture designed for deployment close to a sea is still set inland. Then the seawater could be pumped into the aquaculture directly by bypassing the environment conditioner, as the natural environment prevails under such circumstances. Further, because the fish pen is almost the same in dynamic as the fish gate, except for the bays that enable the gate to float, the fish pen context of operation can also be implemented within the adopted RAS, resulting in pseudo-fish pen to be available for use. Moreover, in both cases, the aquaculture could be used to cultivate two different species of fish under such conditions that enables improvised partitioning of the trough's interior space. Regarding fish feed, while the specifics may differ, the base feed could be a blend of a combination of farm produce together with pineapple skin puree, and further for the ignorance about and to cover for the ignorance about the food that make the fish complete proteins. Optionally, chemically synthesized amino acids and carboxylic acids are added, as such could be readily reset by condensation during and by the metabolic reactions in the fish into the native biological amino acids, subsequently usable by the metabolism to produce the required proteins. However, if a biologically synthesized amino acid is opted for on the belief that invariably it is better to use the biologically synthesized amino acids than the chemically synthesized amino acids, and so the farming of either quinoa or soy is decided upon, then the 2.5 feet parcel is developed and prepared for the farming of the crop. The planting of quinoa is as detailed in episode 23, while the planting of soy is as detailed in episode 22. Finally, the control task sequence of the light intensity tuning, the UV irradiation intensity tuning, the fish feed production process, the process stream dynamics control, the carbon dioxide degasser equipment control, and if quinoa or soy is farmed for external amino acid supplies, then also the usual farming tasks related to either quinoa or soy are integrated into a coherent aqua farming process, and then integrated yet again into the farm process automation control system. The conclusion that can be drawn here at this time is that the expansion of the scope of the subsistence farming to include subsistence aqua farming is entirely viable and makes good sense in doing so as to ensure that the farming produce provides healthfulness by wellness. Most importantly, a recirculating aquaculture system has been developed such that integrates fully into the existing farm and uses the previously developed resources together with off-the-shelf process equipment and is readily adaptable for operations that use fish pen and fish gates. And it is a wrap. On that note, I say to you, thank you so much for having come to listen to this observation about efforts aimed at alleviating world hunger through subsistence farming by both urban dweller farmers and emergent countries' small farm farmers. You are truly appreciated, and if you would like to get privileged viewer reader information, access podcasts of specialized contents, or access even vertically integrated concepts, then I implore you to join my support group and enjoy that privileged status. Moreover, while still here, do please take a moment and subscribe to the channel as to be informed of the publication of every new episode as soon as it is released. Thank you. Bye. Till next episode.